Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all doing marvelously well. If you could just let me know, can you see and can you hear? Does everything look and sound okay to you guys? That would be absolutely phenomenal. And then we can have a little chat about, well, stuff today. I've got no real plans for today. It was a bit of a last minute thing. You have to excuse me sounding a little bit rough. I'm full up with a cold, so if my nose starts running, you will see tissues coming out. And yeah, lots of sniffing and lots of muting, just so you don't have to listen to that noise. So yeah, if anyone can let me know if it looks and sounds okay, that would be absolutely phenomenal. Thank you very much. Anyway, like I say, I hope you're having a fantastic day. There's no real plans for today's live stream. If you've got questions for me, you know the routine is #Q. That's #Q for question. Just means that I've got a little bit of a better chance to be able to see the questions that you want to ask me. There's a couple of things I do want to kind of have a little chat about today. Some things that I'm working on, some things that I've released recently, some things that I'm kind of excited about. Get your feedback on them, have a little chat. Thank you very much, Mark. So we'll say nothing wrong. Okay. Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so let's have a little bit of welcome for everybody that's in today. So again, like I say, thank you very much for joining in. If you do like the live streams and this is your first time here, let me know by putting #new in. And if you've been here for a while, well, you can put #old in if you want to. But hit the thumbs up if you enjoy these kinds of live streams, last minute or planned. It doesn't really matter. Hey, Rob, how you doing here, man? Okay, so have a little look. Who do we have in today? Jean, thank you very much for joining. Ernesto, always a pleasure to see you here. Saluna, hopefully you're all well. We've got John Hussey, a pleasure to see you in again. Chris from WP Imagine. We've got Michael Matalon from Jamaica. I bet it's a damn sight warmer in Jamaica than it is in the Wales, UK at the moment, where it's piddling down with rain and 5 degrees. So yeah, WP Dynamic Data Tutorials, thank you very much for joining in. Isaac, always a pleasure to see you. Sam, good to see you as well. Mark, well, I've got to put up with someone, I suppose. Chris, Alexander, good to see you. Evan, Isaac, always a pleasure. David, Robert, Artif, hey, Artif, how you doing, young man? Dave Pratt, good to see you in as well. We've got, and Dave, how you doing, sir? Dave, do you actually work ever other than creating video tutorials? Because you're always on live streams. You know, not complaining, always a pleasure to have you here. But you're a very, very busy man. Hi, Paul, only 10 minutes here. Stratos, always good to see you. We're all well with you as well. And Hemel Web Design, pleasure. February, good to see you in. Teet, oh, good to see you. So, as always, I do like to do a last minute live every now and again. Just sort of jump on and have a little chat. Man's good to see you in as well. And hi from Sweden. Hope you're doing well. Indonesia, I bet it's a damn sight warmer over in than it is here. Don't know about Sweden, though. What's it like in Sweden, Hans? Is it nice? Dan, always a pleasure to see you as well. Okay, so let's have a little chat. Like I say, if you've got any questions for me, #Q for question. That'd be great. Hilton, good to see you in. Thanks very much for joining in. Like I say, if you are new around here, just do #new as well so I can see how many new faces we have in. Okay, Avelo, hope you're doing well. I always find it weird where instead of the actual emoji coming up, I just get into like brackets kind of thing. It just says what the emoji does. So you kind of read in sometimes, you look at a comment or a question, and it'll be like, that will sort of pop up in the middle of it. You go, that doesn't make any sense in the question. It's kind of weird. Hey, Imran, how you doing, sir? How you doing? On the treadmill, Pepsi Max down my throat, keyboard under my fingers. Strange, but hey, whatever works here. Imran, if you want to join in, mind, you're more than welcome. Just let me know, and I shall invite you into the live stream. You're always welcome to come and join in. Well, Vinyl 75. New, good to see you in. Thank you very much. That's a cool looking profile pic. Is that you? If it is, looking cool. Okay, so one of the things I want to kind of talk about is I like to listen to multitask while working. I'm glad you can multitask. I can't. I can sniff and I can talk at the same time, but that's about as far as it goes. Okay. Right, we have a look at the question. We'll come back to questions in a moment. So, if anybody saw the video I released, I think it was yesterday, or maybe the day before yesterday, for Gutten bricks. Yeah, I keep going to want to call it Gutten blocks. Cloudy, 5 degrees C, spring on the way. Man, that sounds nippy to me. It's pretty much the same here. Ah, Vinyl 75. That's cool. I'm taking you're a singer then. Sweet, nice. Yeah. So the plugin that I kind of done a video on yesterday, which I thought was quite cool. I mean, how many people here in the sort of live today are bricks users or are kind of contemplating it? Let me know, because I'd love to find out how many people we have in now are actually using bricks as opposed to other tools. But if you're using other tools, let me know, what are you using? Are you using Elementor? Are you using just native WordPress with full site editing and Gutenberg? what's your tools of choice? Let me know, and I can kind of get an idea of what it is you are actually using. Yeah, so one of the things that I know a lot of people sort of criticize when it comes to giving a client a site is that Bricks really isn't geared towards, Alexander Goodman, Bricks isn't really geared towards giving it to clients, especially those that are a little less than tech savvy. And one of the comments that kind of came up on my video was, is Gutenberg any better? Because let's be honest about it, if you're a Gutenberg user, when it first came out, yes, it was all kind of geared towards just basically being a replacement for the sort of the classic editor. So there's nothing really that complex in it. But now we've got Flexbox and so on introduced into it, I think it ups the complexity for the end user. So what I really like about the plugin that I took a look at and released the video on yesterday, and Dave Foy did a great video. If you want to take a look at Dave Foy's, have a look at his channel because he did a great video on it as well. Maybe looked at it from a different angle to me in some respects as well. One of the things I kind of like about that is the fact that you can use it to lock down the design. So for example, let's just say that you've created a site and you may use something like sort of Bricks Maven or Brixies or any of those kinds of things if, you're using sort of framework alongside predefined template blocks. You could easily then save each one of those out, or the ones that you want to give your client access to that kind of fit into your design that you've created for them, and then they can become editable blocks. So you can make sure that you have control over the design side of things, and all the end user can do is change the images, the text, and things like that, enable and disable things through the use of ACF and so on. It really does mean that it really does kind of bridge that gap between the client end user that maybe isn't that tech savvy and us as designers that don't want to give access to Bricks because it would overwhelm or just literally terrify the end user because there's so many options, or they just get in a little bit sort of hand happy and start to change things and end up breaking things because they don't really know what they're doing. So if you haven't checked it out, have a little look at it. It's called Gutenblocks. Gutenbricks even. I keep going to call it Gutenblocks. Gutenbricks.com. Ryan, the developer behind it, the whole point of why he built it was he was an Oxygen user and he built the same kind of thing in Oxygen, moved over to Bricks and wanted to bridge that gap with his clients. So it's born out of a need to do exactly what we want to do, which is hand the client the website, not have to do everything for them, but not give them so much control that they can just make a complete and utter mess of the whole thing very easily. And I know a lot of people sort of say, oh, but Elementor is easier. And maybe there's a certain level of truth in that. But it's still problematic. You still are giving them access to something that's a little bit, they could easily get and break things by having access to Elementor, regardless of if it is a little bit easier. So I still don't think that's technically the best option for them. Anyway, that's just my kind of thoughts. Have you seen it? Did you watch the video? Have you taken a look at the plugin itself, the tool itself? Let me know. I'll try to get right again. Gutenbricks.com. You can go and check it out for yourself and have a little look. Yes, it is the correct microphone, Sean. So hopefully it's just a little bit of echo in the room because I'm not using any sort of sound echo treatment on the microphone itself. So maybe that's the reason why. Okay, so take a little quick look at some of the questions that have already popped up. So just bear with me. So again, if you're new, if you're just joining the live stream now and you want to sort of ask any questions, just do #Q so I'll know it's a question. Go around, when's the next giveaway? I don't know, when I hit 250,000 maybe. I don't know yet. Sorry you left empty-handed because there were a lot of prizes when we hit 100,000. There were a lot of very generous people that donated software and plugins and things like that. So maybe at some point, but at the moment, no real plans to do it yet. Okay. So now I'm scared to read about the recent Brick scare. Can you briefly tell me, just a few sentences, what's so scary there? As I said, sorry, I don't have Facebook. Basically, there was a vulnerability, what's called an RCE vulnerability in Bricks Builder. And I don't want to go into it because I don't tend to cover kind of security issues and vulnerabilities with any kind of software, any of the tools out there that we may use, like Elementor, Bricks, all those kinds of things. But briefly, there was a vulnerability, an RCE vulnerability that meant some people's sites without the right security on there were hacked or compromised. And that's obviously led to a lot of frustrated people. So what I would recommend is if you are running Bricks sites on any kind of live environment or even a test environment, if you don't have any kind of firewall or any kind of software that's checking for these kinds of things, I would recommend putting something on there after you've made a backup, a recent backup, so you can check it to make sure it hasn't been compromised in any way. And if it has, roll back to a backup from probably the beginning of February is probably going to be the safest, and then obviously do a check again. That's the sort of fundamentals of it. I think you can probably find out more information if you go to the Bricks website. I'm sure there's information on there about what's happened and the best ways to go about checking to see if your site has been compromised and what you need to do to sort things out. So yeah, have a little look. Isaac, I feel this is not the best approach. I do bricks for overall and post and CPTs using straight Gutenberg. I think it's down to the end user. I think this is a good compromise to sit in the middle for people that want to restrict access to what the end user client can do, or if you've got less than tech savvy clients. And we have to bear in mind that this is still a very early version of this particular plugin. So I think there's still going to be room for improvement in what Ryan is doing. But I think it's an interesting start, and I think it's a promising start. So is it going to be for everyone and every client, everyone's workflow? No. I mean, Isaac, if that doesn't fit into your workflow, that's totally fine. You know, that's the beauty of having something like WordPress, is that we do have that flexibility to be able to use whatever we want and build things out to a certain extent, however we want to, and however we want to sort of handle and deal with clients. But not everybody. I mean, Gutenberg itself has become more complicated, I think, as flexboxes come in and columns and rows and containers and things like that, or whatever they kind of call them in there are, alongside full site editing and all those kinds of things. I think WordPress is in a funny place at the moment, especially with regards to Gutenberg, the Gutenberg project, the 3 phases of revamping WordPress. It's kind of a funny place. Anyway, like I say, if it's not for you, not a problem. That's the beauty of having all these options, is that we have options and we can choose to set things up the way that we want and work the way that we want to. Martin, in your last talk with Thomas from Bricks, he said it was on the roadmap for Bricks native. Bricks seems great, but would it die in 3, 6, or 12 months of Bricks are doing in native? I think you always have to question how things are implemented, because could it die in 6 to 12 months? Yeah, absolutely. We don't know specifically what Thomas and co have in mind for the direction that Bricks is going to go in. But I would wonder if it would be treated in a similar fashion to how they treat in WooCommerce, which is it's not really getting the same amount of attention as a lot of the core functionality inside Bricks itself is getting. So you may get something like it, but would it still have the same flexibility and power and functionality that you have in a tool like Gutenbricks? We'd have to wait and see. But there's always the scope for that. I think any plugin that bridges the gap between a tool like Bricks or Elementor or anything like that and the end user or client requirements or user requirements, there's always the scope for that to be incorporated into core if enough people are interested in it and enough people find use in it. We never know. If you take a look at something like Advanced Thema, there's so many things in Advanced Thema that Maxim's putting in there that it really does open up some amazing opportunities to be more productive, faster, and even just some things in there that just make working with Bricks more sensible. You know, as a designer, you know, working inside an environment like that, it just goes, why isn't that in core? It could end up in core, we don't know. But I still don't think we should ever, you know, sort of worry so much about that, because I think it's the same as when you talk about technology and you think, do I buy an M3 MacBook Pro when we're 6 months into the life cycle and another one could come out in 6 months' time? So that'll be faster and better. You use what you need to use now to get the job done. And if that changes in the future, well, that's part of technology. You know, you've got Moore's Law. It's going to get faster. It's going to get progress quicker. It's going to evolve quicker. It's just, unfortunately, the nature of the beast. We have to kind of accept that as part of the learning cycle. But like I say, again, if you don't want to use something like that, or you think it's going to be incorporated into core, and you don't have clients that have a need for something like this right now, then I wouldn't worry about it. You know, it is one of those things that I think it's probably only really relevant to most people that have clients that they don't want tinkering or making, you know, it could be balls up of their site, which I'm sure if you've worked with clients, any of us worked with clients, we know that happens. And the first thing that I do is take that out of my portfolio. take that out of my portfolio because I don't want to be associated with what the client's done. But in the same way that if someone goes to buy a car, if they then decide to wrap it in bright pink with yellow polka dots on it and red stripes up it and put, different color alloy wheels on each corner, well, it's their car, they bought it. But chances are the manufacturer wouldn't want to be associated with it. He wouldn't put it on as a sort of spectacle for their brand. It is what it is, I think. That's what I'm kind of trying to get at. Isaac, by the way, regarding the state of WordPress, I was entertaining, what if Bricks goes CMS agnostic? I don't see it myself. Again, never say never, but I think there's so much time and effort has been invested into Bricks, working inside WordPress and opening up the ability to build third-party plugins to plug into it, that obviously there's going to be WordPress-centric connections between those. I don't really see it. I think the only one that's kind of, I would say, would probably go down that route at this point in time, other than Brizy, which is already doing that with Brizy Cloud, is Elementor with their cloud. At some point, I do think they are going to move away from being a WordPress plugin, and I think they will at some point, if it's viable, move to their own, let's say, Webflow-esque setup on their own cloud hosting, which to me makes more sense anyway. Yes, you have the loss of the ecosystem you have around WordPress and the ability to put so many plugins and themes and designs and tools and everything into it. But once you have that flexibility, you also have a lot of potential for problems, as we've seen. One of the biggest problems when it comes to security or failed updates and things is not necessarily, in this example, Elementor or Bricks or whatever. It's the third-party plugins that kind of plug into it and the not being updated at the same time, which, this is where the problems can tend to lie. So I don't see Bricks going that direction. At least, maybe Thomas in the future would look, or I say Thomas, but Thomas as the company, should we say? They might say, well, actually, the next project we want to work on is a iteration of Bricks, and it moves over to a cloud platform, and it becomes system agnostic. In the same way that Webflow is, and the same way that sort of Wix Studio is it, and things like that. Who knows? Martin, Advanced Themer and Maxim is crazy with features. The strict editor role in it could be a gap where you close down features of Bricks Builder to make it less scary. Is it FOMO or should I? Look, I can't answer for you. The reality of it is, and again, I don't know where you're coming from, what country you're in, what exchange rates and so on are involved there. But I always think that if we're doing this as a business, part of our role is we have to spend money to learn and test tools out to find out if they're a viable option for our client. I'm not saying that you throw money at everything that comes out there, because that would just get crazy very quickly. But I do think there's a lot of reasons why you would want to test tools like this out and get a feel for it. But what I always say is, if there's videos out there for any of these tools, watch the videos, get a basic understanding of what's happening, and see if it fills in those gaps in your head or they answer the questions that you may have, because that's going to give you a good idea of, is it worth investing the money? And what I like about a lot of the tools like this is, A, they're not stupidly expensive, and you can buy a single license so you can try it out. And if you find this useful, and most of them will give you a 14 or 30-day money-back guarantee on it, so if you don't like it, you can get your money back. I would say you've got nothing to lose by trying these out. But as far as Advanced Themer and what Maxim is doing, now I've started using it in earnest. I put a Brick site on the other day to do a few bits and pieces without Advanced Themer on there, and I'm like, oh God, I've got to go and click. I got to go and do like 5 clicks to get at something now, which I would click once and it would be there. It's just silly. It's just, again, those time-saving little things that make life easy. But to answer your question, is it FOMO? Possibly. But is it worth trying out? I would say in this instance, like I say, if you have clients, I do think it is worth trying out, honestly. I get nothing from this, so I don't think there's any affiliate scheme or anything like that. I don't know Ryan. I've spoken to him a couple of times where he reached out to me and said, well, I'd like to try the plugin out. I've tried the plugin out. I like what it's doing. It is very quickly in development. Yes, there's bugs and things in there. Yes, there's quirks. But he's very open to listening to the community that's now building up around it, with a lot of very smart people in there. I will be honest. I mean, there's a lot of people in there that I sort of see in other groups, and it's like they're not daft people. They know what they're looking for. They know what they're talking about, and they're giving advice and sort of saying maybe you should look at this, or this would work well, or how about this? And a lot of those ideas are being taken on board to make this into something that becomes a lot more powerful. And I think once the ACF, Metabox, and ACPT integration starts to mature a little bit with this, let's say in the next 6 months, I think the combination of being able to have these templated kind of blocks or patterns alongside the ability to have, dynamic tools to control aspects of it and things, I think it's going to be pretty powerful. I think it's going to really be super useful. And this is where I would question whether, if it got taken on board natively inside Bricks, whether that would actually be the direction that they would go in, if they would put that much into that, or whether it would be a case of they would do the fundamentals to bridge that gap, and that would be what they would do. Again, like I say, I'm not privy to any of these what they're going to do. I have no idea. So just speculation on my part. Okay, so anybody else that's coming in now, like I say, that's new in, missed at the beginning, if you've got a question for me, #Q for hashtag for question. It just makes my life a little easier to see what you're saying. Imran, is there a real plant besides you, or IKEA artificial plant? Nothing wrong with IKEA artificial plants, as they're great. No, that's completely and utterly fake, because there's no light in here other than the artificial light. There's no windows or anything, because it's a dedicated studio built in my garage. So there's no windows, there's just literally a door. So if I had plants in here, I would kill them quicker than my missus kills that plants in the house. That's what I would say. Ross, let's have a little look-see. I like Bricks to keep it simple. I want them to have basic support for things like that with plenty of hooks for other devs. I'm kind of 50-50 on that front. The problem I have with relying on other devs to do things is that we end up then in the same situation that we've got with Elementor. And I've always been open about this with Elementor, and this isn't specific to Elementor, but they become very reliant upon that third-party ecosystem to fill in a lot of gaps and bridge a lot of areas that really I would have rather seen inside the core of Elementor itself. And that's been one of the real reasons why I've got very frustrated with it and ultimately stopped using it, because it was one of those sort of chicken and egg situations where you had pieces missing in Elementor, so you needed a third-party plugin to bridge that gap. And then whenever there was an update and things broke, the blame was always pushed over to say, well, it's because the third-party developers haven't updated quick enough. So you get that chicken and egg situation, which means that there's always that risk of something going wrong, and it's, where's the blame lie? But the blame doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If your site breaks because of a problem that's either the third-party developer or Elementor, or the fact they don't talk to each other and what have you, it just puts us in a position that we have to deal with the aftermath. And that to me is where the problem lies. So we're relevant, and this is the key thing, I think. We're relevant. I don't want just to sort of stick everything in there in the same way that if we take a look at Elementor, for example, I use Elementor because it's the one I'm most familiar with out of all the tools out there. If you take a look at a tool like Elementor, there's things added in there that I think lots of people just think, why? Why did you add it? Why invest the resources into something that there's already solid plugins out there doing exactly that, or services or tools, whatever, and it doesn't need to be part of the core Elementor. So why not just leave that to the people that are already doing it and invest the time, the money, the resources, and the manpower and so on into the features that we've been asking for, or the problems that are on GitHub and have been on GitHub for a very, very long time that are not getting rectified. And again, like I say, this isn't specific to Elementor. I mean, all companies have this kind of scenario, but I think the more reliance we have upon those third-party external services and plugins and so on, the more chance we open ourselves up to problems with incompatibilities and updates not being done and so on. Sorry, Ross. I completely agree with that. I tend to use Bricks agnostic plugins or build plugins in. Yeah, exactly. If you're using agnostic plugins, that's fine. This is, again, this kind of goes back to what I'm talking about with the Elementor thing. Build the tools that we need, include the functions that we need, and then things that are outside it that I would consider to be ancillary, like notes, like, things like that. Keep those to where they make more sense, which is external, where if you move from one builder to another, or you're using multiple tools, you have one centralized location. Like for example, Atarim. That means you can have this sort of conversation, you have the notes, you can have the feedback and things like that. And it doesn't matter what you're building your website in, whether you're hand coding it using Bricks, Elementor, whatever, makes no difference. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's like use those kinds of tools where it makes sense because it makes sense. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, sorry. Excuse me, I am bunged right up with an annoying cold. Okay, Michael D. If cost was not an issue, which automation tool is your go-to? I should use Pabbly, but I think Flowmatic might be a better choice. Your opinion? If money was no object, I would probably go with Zapier. Not because I like what they do, but because they seem to have the easiest workflow, probably one of the most broad connection setups, but price is an issue there. So if the choice between something like Pabbly Connect or something like Flowmatic or Uncanny Automate or bit integrations and things like that, there's more to it than just the software, in my opinion. Pabbly is okay, but there are a couple of things I don't really like about it. I did invest in the lifetime deal myself, and it works okay for the most part, but it's also, I think if I had the choice, Pabbly is what I use right now, but I don't necessarily think it would be the choice if money was no object. Flowmatic, one of the things I like about Flowmatic is the developer behind it. He's incredibly open to suggestions. He listens to what people want. And every time I've had a conversation with him, whether it's to sort of give feedback or request a kind of integration, he's been incredibly gracious in adding those in. Or if he hasn't added it in, he's explained the reason why it's not possible at this point in time. And if in the near future that's going to change, whether that's a Flowmatic side they're going to change or whether it's going to be the actual connection itself in the platform itself, he's very open about that. And I like that. I like that in developers where you can talk to them. They do listen to you because at the end of the day, we are the users. We're the ones that, should we say, have boots on the ground, as it were. So I like it when you can have a conversation and they listen to what you're saying and take on board what you're saying. So I like Flowmatic. I think there's a lot of things to like about it. The only thing that you need to be aware of between something like Pabbly and something like Flowmatic is with a tool like Pabbly Connect, everything is done off your server. So if you have a very, very busy period for whatever reason, you don't have to worry about the scaling and all those kinds of things. Whereas with a tool like Flowmatic, everything is run on your server. And if you do have very busy times, then you need to be able to make sure you've got something in place that allows you to scale your server very quickly, whether it's an automated scaling or whether it's something you can manually scale and then pull back when you need to. It's just worth bearing that in mind. That to me is where the biggest key difference between these different tools come in. But if money's an issue and you want something that you can pay once and you can carry on using, Pabbly is probably good. The only other thing I would say is whatever level you look at, probably go for the next one. Because I went for the base level on the lifetime deal. And what's annoying about it, one of the things that kind of still irks me, is that you can't move up to the next tier. You just literally, once you lock that in, you lock that in. So if you wanted to double it, you'd have to go and buy it again. And I'm kind of like a bit miffed about that. I knew it before I went into it, so it's not something they hid or changed or anything like that. I knew that's what the situation was. I just wish I'd bought the double and ended up with more actions on there. So hopefully that's kind of answered your question, or maybe just giving you a sort of different sort of approach to how to look at these things. Well, you said it, and you may speak for many people. If you're enjoying the live stream and you're getting value from it, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not, well, you can hit the thumbs down button twice because that works as well too, as you all well know. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to sort of say is I'm going to release a video probably later on today once I wrap this live stream up and I go and edit it very, very quickly on creating a dark mode dashboard for WordPress. It's a very, very simple example. It's just a simple PHP code snippet with CSS in there. You can use it with the code snippet plugin. And you can very easily just convert your entire dashboard into a dark version of it. And if you want to tweak it, I go through some of the things you can tweak in there and why I've set them up in certain ways so you can tweak it to get how you want to look. But I'll be releasing that video a little later on. I'll probably wrap this up about 3 o'clock UK time, which is about half an hour. So I would say probably about 4 o'clock. Yeah, probably about an hour and a half or so. And I'll be releasing that. All totally free. Little bit of code snippet that'll be available on the website. If you've ever wanted to create a dark mode, or you just don't like the sort of light mode that you've got inside the normal WordPress dashboard, this is a nice, simple, quick and viable way of being able to change it over to a dark mode without spending any money whatsoever, which is always a nice thing. So yeah, I told you I'll be using the tissue to wipe my nose. Excuse me. Okay, do we have any more? Let's have a little look. I wouldn't say so much low traffic. What I would just say is that, you just need to bear in mind that there is always that potential that if you have a lot of traffic coming through, let's say you run a promotion or something, then with everything else, if you've got lots of automations, you're sending it off to your CRM, sending it off to your email marketing, connecting it up to various other different things, just bear in mind that's one other thing you need to take into consideration when it comes to bandwidth, traffic, resources, your CPU, your memory, and those kinds of things on the server that you're using. So if you can increase that during those busy periods, I would recommend increasing it, just bearing in mind, and it's not specific to Flowmatic, like I say, this is going to be any kind of tool that you run on WordPress, on your own servers. You just need to take that into consideration that they are all taking resources from your hosting, so you probably would need to scale it should you need to, if you know you've got a busy period coming up, or have something in place so you can monitor that and you can compensate as and when needed. So that's kind of all I mean. Not so much necessarily a low traffic site, more a case of just bearing in mind that you may need to increase resources at busy periods of time to cater for that extra strain you may have on it. Robert, Elementor 3.2 activates scroll snap, which breaks the sticky scroll effects. The bug report about it hasn't been addressed at all. Do we need to say anything? Do we? How's that plugin of yours going anyway, Robert? Did you ever actually reach out to me and message me and let me know about it? If you haven't, by all means do. Ping me a message on Facebook or drop me an email. It'd be good to find out what you're doing and have a chat about it. I always like to find out what developers are doing and how things are going. And, often if there's things I can do to help, reach out, man. There's no problems at all. Okay. Right. Let's have a little look through. Right. So remember, if you've got any questions, hashtag Q. If not, well, I'm just going home. Oh, actually, I am home. You know what I mean. Right. Bear with me 1 second. I better think about what I'll give away when I hit 100K. Well, to be honest, Imran, the way that you're going at the moment, I don't think that's going to be very long at all. You are flying along. It only seems like 5 minutes ago you hit 20K and now you just hit 50K. So I think you'll be surpassing me before long, for sure. Which, awesome. Really good. I will send the hitmen out to kill you, but other than that, it's all good. All good. I love you, really. Just joking. No, it's awesome to see how well you're doing. It really is. Break that like icon. Absolutely. Break it. Go smash it to pieces. Hit it with everything you've got. It's always good. Okay. So, I'm going to chuck a question over to you guys now. What are you working on at the moment? Let me know. Because are you working on, just a plain old vanilla website, or are you doing something a little bit sort of the stretch in either your skills or what you can do in WordPress? Because it's always interesting to find out how you can, what you're doing, what you're working on, and to kind of get a feel for what people are doing. Because a lot of the time it actually opens up my eyes to different sort of potential content to create that maybe is a little different to what I would normally do. Yeah, let me know. Is it necessary to update plugins because mostly it breaks something? Well, I would say yes, it is. But obviously, when it comes to what kind of plugins you're talking about, always make sure you've got backups in place. And if anybody knows or they've listened to any of the sort of things I've done before, I always recommend 3 different levels of redundancy when it comes to your backups. On-site, in other words, your hosting company definitely needs to have daily backups. If you're running e-commerce, maybe even hourly backups if you've got a very busy store. Then you want to have automated backups that go off-site to make sure that you've always got something that if something takes your server offline, or for God forbid, your hosting company closes things down, you've got your website that you can put a backup onto a different hosting account very, very quickly indeed. And then the third option is obviously you can create manual backups, or when you create a backup, when you run, an update, there's an automated backup process in place there in whatever way you do it, whether it's automated when you do the backup, actually when you do the update, or you're using something like main WP, for example, and you can set that and you can do a backup there, however you want to run it. Always make sure you've got 3 levels of redundancy, because that way then if things go pear-shaped, you can get it back up and running very quickly. But yeah, is it necessary to update plugins immediately? I would say, unless it's a security issue, probably not immediately. And I would say if you ever have something, if you're using something like Elementor or tools like that, WooCommerce, if there's a major revision, for example, 3.5, then I would generally recommend, unless it's a security reason, to wait for at least 3.52, 3.53, give it a couple of days at least, because there will generally be bugs in there to start off with, which means that then when you update, you're going to find those bugs out for yourself, whereas a lot of those will be ironed out over the next couple of days as that is released, and as people start to use it, report those bugs, and hopefully they get squashed very quickly. So yeah, that's what I would consider the best practice with those things in most cases. Like I say, there's always going to be differences. I did see another one. Where did I see? Revolution. Any video planned for 3.20 performance improvements and DOM size? No. To be honest, it's one of those things that I really don't have any passion for doing things like that. It takes an awful lot of work for not a lot of people actually paying any attention to it. So, and there's also so many different scenarios. It's very rare that you'd have someone that would be using plain old Elementor with nothing else installed on it, like security plugins, like SEO plugins, maybe optimization plugins, caching plugins, and things like that. So whatever findings I would come up with would probably be completely different to what the next person would come up with anyway. So I've got no real interest in performance things, unless it's just to say, this is the tech stack that I've used to create this website, and here's a typical performance metric you could expect to receive from it. Then no, probably not. And if I'm honest, I don't really use Elementor these days for anything other than creating content if I deem it sort of necessary to do it. So and most of that will be sort of dynamic content, or there's a new feature that's actually been released that I've been asking for an awful long time, and I'll cover it like I did on the video on Monday, because I've been asking for dynamic conditions for probably the last 3 to 4 years. So hence the reason why I covered it, and I don't tend to cover a lot of the other things. Imran, I'm trying to build a hierarchy mobile menu that doesn't need lots of pop-ups. Try, fail, try, fail, try. Yeah, good luck with that. I hate bloody mobile menu things. The pain in the ass. Dave Pratt, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on ACF blocks. I'm having issues with tools like Yoast and RankMath not being able to read the content, and anyone else have that issue. By ACF blocks, I'm assuming that you're talking about where you kind of create your ACF Gutenberg-based blocks. I'm assuming that's what you probably mean. If it is, to be honest, I don't really use it. It's one of those features that I'm sure it's incredibly useful, incredibly powerful, but I've never really found anything particularly useful out there to take you through how it all works, to get my head around it so I can start to see use cases for where I think, oh, actually, I would use that. And then look at how to put it all together. So I don't really have that much of an insight on it, if I'm going to be brutally honest. It's one of those key areas of ACF Pro that I never really dabble with. So unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to give you a useful answer there. Sorry. Alexander, Bricks Woo Shop and Oliver POS with Amelia. How do you find Amelia? I bought the Amelia lifetime deal probably a year, 18 months ago. And I did the sponsored video for them, and I like what it does. But I find it's one of those things that I've got a couple of different tools like this. I've got Book Like a Boss, I've got Amelia, I've got Fluent Booking, and I just look at them and think, they look good. But I have absolutely no use for them at this point in time. I don't do sort of consultancy work. So other than the occasional meeting that I may have with a company that I'm working with, or something like that, or another creator, I got no real use for it. But how are you getting on with the POS side of things? Because I can remember a couple of times, I got to say it, like in the background in your profile picture there, I can see you're into recording studio stuff. Sweet. What software do you use? Anyway, I digress. Integration with POS. I mean, hopefully that's probably moved on a lot since I had the misfortune of having to try and work on that many moons ago with WooCommerce, and it was a bloody minefield then. So I'd love to know, how are you finding it? Is it Is it relatively seamless to connect these up these days as WooCommerce moved on and the POS side of things? And for anybody who doesn't know, it's point of sale, where you've got your sort of bricks and mortar store want to connect up to your WooCommerce store and stock control and those kinds of things. Yeah, let me know if it's moved on, how complex it is you're finding it. Because like I say, it was an absolute bloody nightmare when I looked into it several years ago for a jewelry company. What do we have? This means war. Building out a local business directory using Elementor on Crockerblock. That's a lot of work. But they're good. They're cool. I think once you get things up and running, and this is where I love dynamic stuff. You know, I'm still as nerdy as I ever was. Dynamic things just make me happy. Just when you start to see how you can combine all these different tools together and then just go, okay, I can set one set of these things up, and now I can have hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses listed on it and so on. So that sounds like an interesting project. I've done a very similar thing myself for the accommodation-based businesses in where my business used to be located. So that was a lot of fun, and not a lot of fun because you were kind of working with a design by committee thing, which was a bloody nightmare. Anyway, Dan, rebuilding an old Elementor site using ACF Dynamentor Dynamentor Rexy. I'm assuming going to use bricks and bricks blocks ACF. Dynamentor Rexy, it was a shame that didn't go any further because that was a pretty cool plugin. I'm disappointed that the developer behind that decided not to carry on with it, because the combination of that alongside ACF Front-End Forms Pro was pretty sweet. You could do some really cool things with that for front-end dashboard control and content control with clients and so on. Good luck. Revolution. I'm working on my own business project, building variable products for my window blind store. All the logics and matrix tables except wrecked my brain for months, but I'm so happy it works now. Oh God, I feel you there. Excuse me. When it comes to the logistics and things like that, or the logic behind it, and all those different sort of data tables you've got to cross-reference and all those kind of things, the calculation things will be brought into it. They're a nightmare. This is where Imran would enjoy this because he loves data and statistics. You should speak to Imran the next time you're going to do this. Sorry, Imran. Sorry. Netrunner. Currently trying to make a website that imports big PDFs, breaks down their content, imports the ACF fields, and then displays them in various views in bricks and WP data tables. Wow, that sounds like an interesting and slightly complex project. How are you doing it? How are you actually grabbing that data from the PDFs? I mean, I've seen how you can kind of, you take your data and output that and spit out a PDF, so the kind of reverse of this. I'd love to know how you're grabbing that data out, or the content out of those PDFs. What are you using? Let me know. Let me know how you're doing it. That's quite a cool and interesting project. I'm working on a tour and travel website for a client and WordPress related content for my YouTube channel. Planning to have them success at the end of the day. Travel websites for a client. Wow, that's not a straightforward project then. They are pretty comprehensive projects when you come to travel agency type things and things like that. And lots of data updates. Are you connecting this to some kind of external service that's pulling and aggregates that data, or is it they're manually putting that information in themselves and maintaining and controlling the content? Let me know. Interesting. Daniel, so this is going back to my comment about having multiple forms of redundancy in place. My hosting has daily backups plus offshore backup, but I also run daily backup on a storage box which has another offshore backup. You can never have too many backups. I don't care what anybody says. When something goes wrong, those backups will save you bacon. Or if you're a vegan, they will save your not bacon. I don't know. Michael, I'm working on automating an existing course class website, hence the research on automation tools. Honestly, Michael, once you get into automation tools, and I've been saying this, and there's not enough interest out there, so I think anybody that isn't interested in automation is crazy. Once you realize what these tools can do, and you sort of just get your head into how you can connect things up and just get them to talk to each other. The biggest eye-opener for me was when I was building my last course, is setting up all the automation side of things there for going from Thrivecart, which is what I used to handle the payment checkout process. So when someone was sort of like register for their interest, and then they would get added into my email marketing list and they'd be tagged with a certain thing, so you could send a certain email sequence to them. Then if they went out, they would be untagged from that and tagged with something else, so they'll be tracked via Thrivecart, so as an external connection service. Then they would be tagged with something else. They go to a different email sequence. They'd automatically be added into my platform for my course platform. They would be added into various other things then as well. It's like revolutionary. It's like when you start looking at templates to start off with, when you've gone from building every page yourself, then you see what includes are like, then you see a templating system, where you can just create half a dozen templates without tens of thousands of pages. Then you have, sort of global classes and CSS frameworks and so on. All these things become a bit of a revelation to you when you start to realize how much you can do and how much you're missing out on. So if anybody hasn't looked into automation, I've got a couple of videos on my channel about it, but even if you don't go there, just do a little bit of research into tools like Flowmatic or Uncanny Automator or Pabbly Connect or Zapier, Make.com, all these kinds of different services that do the same kind of thing. And you'll start to see how you can get all these different things to talk to each other. And one action by a user can trigger so many other things and get so many other things happening. It's pretty mind-boggling. But good luck with that, Michael. Again, let me know how you get on, whether you come onto another live stream in a couple of weeks' time and you've got an update on it, or if you're part of the Facebook group, let me know. Because again, like I say, I love to find out what you're doing, and I love to hear your success stories, the frustrations, the struggles, and so on. Because like I say, it means that it gives me food for thought when it comes to different tutorials or different videos or different information to put together. Because creating content on just how to do X, Y, and Z, as I'm sure Imran can attest to, or anybody else in the sort of creator network and the group of people that I'm friends with, it does get very stale when you're doing the same old thing over and over again. It's nice to say, how can you do something different? How can you take, this and do something else with it and have a bit of fun with it? So, yeah, let me know. Behave Yourself. I like that name. That is awesome. You get the award today for the best username. Behave Yourself. Building a squeeze page for my site so I can organize a Zoom presentation, looking at email marketing, experiment with MailMint at the moment. Email marketing and squeeze pages and things like that, they're an art form to themselves. So good luck with that. It is one of those things that I know where I've done my own email sequences and my own things like that, landing pages and so on. It's an ongoing process. You will go back and tweak, forevermore, I think. I think it's just the nature of it. As you learn more, as you come across techniques that work better, as things ebb and flow when it comes to, online sales and online marketing and promotion and so on. So good luck with that. These kind of things, again, this is a whole nerdy thing. But again, I would suggest taking a look at some automation tools, whether you're WordPress or whether you're external to WordPress, because there's so many ways in which you could have all these different tools do other things for you that you may not have thought of when you realize how you can connect things together in ways that you may never have even thought of in the past. It really does open your eyes to what you can do with it. So good luck with that. I absolutely love that name, Behave Yourself, and that's absolutely awesome. What do you do? Let me know. Found a plugin called UniCPO from the Build Areas team, which is quite amazing. They seem to be working on a bricks-like builder as well. Yes, they do have their own builder called Build Areas, I think it is. I know Elvis is, this isn't, Elvis as in, This is Elvis, who's one of the very prevalent in the different Facebook groups like, what's it called? Dynamic WordPress and so on. He's part of the team, I believe. Very smart guy. And I think what they're doing is very developer-centric. So it's not at that level of your Elementor user. It is more the sort of more advanced, intermediate to advanced users. But from what I've heard, I haven't tried it out myself, but from like what David McCann has said, it is a very interesting project and it is moving forward nicely. So, cool. Yeah, I agree. It is quite some work. Yeah, so Amelia is wonderful. I'm glad you, like I say, it's one of those things that there are so many different tools out there that do the same thing but in different ways. And like I say, I just need to get a reason to use them. Like I say, I buy a lot of these different tools thinking at some point in the future I may have a need for this. I'll have an idea in my head, in the back of my head, and I think I'll grab that now. And if it's a lifetime deal, even if it becomes shelfware, as long as I haven't spent stupid amounts of money on it, then I don't mind so much. It is one of those things that it can sit there, and then if I have a need for it, I've got it there ready to go, and I can have things up and running really quickly. Oh, you're a Nuendo user. Ah, cool. So, I was a Reaper user for a long, long time. And anybody that doesn't know, this is digital audio workstations. And I had a YouTube channel called Reaper TV, which I think it's still got about 50 or 60,000 subscribers on it, which is all about home recording studio using Reaper. Yeah, so cool. Hope you're enjoying the music production side of things. Oliver POS is brilliant too. Let's have a look. It's beyond good for what it was expected. Everything a company needs. Oh, even better. It integrates with Amelia. Oh, cool. Good to know. Good to know. Like I say, I found, and this is, like I say, it's going back probably at least 10 years now. So WooCommerce was nowhere near where it is now, and I can imagine most of the POS software wasn't anywhere near where it is now as well. So it's good to hear that there actually is smoother integration there, because like I say, I found for me it was a bloody nightmare. It wasn't fun at all. And I think, if I'm honest, I think I actually got out of doing it, which is a bonus. I love WooCommerce and how easy it feels compared to other CMSs. It always feels like other CMSs feel more snappy at the back end and front end. Yeah, WooCommerce is not the best when it comes to the back end performance. I've got to be honest, I really wish there was some realistic competition to WooCommerce, because I think they had the monopoly for so long now that there's nothing out there that can kind of topple them at this point in time. You've got North Commerce, which I know is still in beta, and I know that's been pushed forward, but at this point in time, it doesn't seem to be a main contender because you don't really hear much about it. SureCart is okay if you want digital product side of things. Whether they're going to move into actual products, I don't know. I don't really know much about the product. But none of these seem to have the same weight that WooCommerce has, probably because it's got Automatic behind them. But I really wish they did have something out there, because it needs competition. It really does. Isaac. Rebuilding my website with Generate Blocks, and I'm so in love with the query loop. I'm with you there. I think Generate Blocks is incredibly underrated. And when people take a look at Generate Blocks itself, with its like 7 or 8 sort of elements in there, and people go like, look at something like Cadence, or look at Stackable, or look at these, and they got 50 different elements in there. And I would say, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, Isaac, but you probably would agree, most of those tools you can either do without, or using something like Generate Blocks actually helps focus on what you need to build an effective website without necessarily sticking bells and whistles and things like that into it that don't actually make any real difference. And if you've got any kind of skill or ability in even basic coding or even just CSS, you can do an awful lot with those Generate Blocks. I'm a big fan. I love it. I've got several sites built on GeneratePress and Generate Blocks, and the loop builder is very nice. Very good. Right. Okay, so I'm gonna give it another 5 minutes, and then we're gonna kind of wind things down. What's a good low-cost free Ajax search plugin for multilingual sites in Element? Oh God, I have no idea. Multilingual, I don't know. The what's it called? Search and filter. What's the name of it? The Crocoblock search and filter. That's got an Ajax live search in it, which is quite good. Or it was. I haven't tried it for a while. I would, Bricks, you're an Element user. Good question. Honestly, I'll open the floor up to anybody. If anybody else knows, can they just tag Abdullah in there and let him know what they think? Like I say, I'm not really a big Ajax search user, and I definitely don't really use Elementor these days. Right. Ernesto, what are your thoughts about cPanel as an email server and add multiple domains? Any downside on it? Yes, it's bloody awful. If you're using it for yourself, then it's fine. If you're doing it, you've got a reseller account and you're working with clients, my honest answer to this, after at least 20 years of dealing with this myself, is don't do it. Get them to set up their own email, or whether you set it up for them or you help them or whatever it is, get them to go with either something like Gmail or go with something like Office 365 and just set up your domain to use the DNS servers of those mail servers and let it be handled externally. If you're doing it for yourself, it's fine. You can monitor and maintain it and do it, and I do that myself. Clients, when things go wrong, and I've got an email that I've got to deal with this afternoon as well, in specific to this, it's not worth it. And everybody else I've spoken to that's doing their own reseller accounts or work with clients that they've set hosting accounts up for will say the same thing. Don't do the email yourself by using cPanel or any of your servers, whatever you're doing. Let the client have their own external email servers and then connect that up to the domain via DNS. That's the way I would go about it, because it's just not worth the hassle. Because I've had more hassle with that side of things than basic hosting itself. Just, no. Bloody awful. Netrunner, PDF to XML on server, then WP all important. That sounds cool. I've never thought of doing it that way. That's an interesting approach to it. If anybody's wondering, if they kind of jumped in halfway through this is Netrunner setting up a site at the moment that's actually taking PDF information, stripping out the contents of it, and then actually dealing with the data from that PDF. So I just questioned, how did he actually go about doing it? And he's kind enough to have answered that by using that. So PDF into XML on the server, then use WP all import to grab that data and pull it in. Interesting. And again, this is what I mean. This is what I love about conversations like this. It opens my eyes up to the way that people will be using things that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of. And it's just cool. It's really just cool. Right. Hey, Chad, how are you doing, sir? Revolution. Personally, I love bricks, but unfortunately I had a refund because I couldn't get the mini cart and off-canvas cart to work as I wanted to. Thomas reached out to me and tried to help. Good dev. There are a couple of good plugins that if you wanted to go down that route, I'm not saying to kind of go back and buy bricks again. Bricks Extras is good. That's a really solid, well-respected plugin that has a lot of the same functions that are in bricks, but they are probably more feature-rich. And this kind of goes back full circle to where we were right back at the beginning. We were talking about Gutenbricks. Even if bricks do take on that kind of methodology and incorporate that into things, I don't imagine they would have the same level as what that plugin does. And I think this is a good example of it. Bricks Extras is very, I think it's Bricks Extras, because I bought it before Christmas as well. Yeah, I know what you mean. When it comes to the WooCommerce integration, Thomas was kind of relatively open in the sort of the video that we had, the live stream that he had, that WooCommerce isn't necessarily their primary focus when it comes to pushing bricks forward. And I can't blame them. Like I say, I just don't think it's a particularly nice tool to use. Sell Honey. Thank you. And you're a UK-based company, which is always good to see. I should have known you Sell Honey, shouldn't I, really? But I still think that's the best name of the day. So you do still win the award for best name. Oh, well, cool. Made a lot of music and games for audio mastering. Very nice. Well done. Lots of fun. Okay. I'm going to do, what are we? Ooh, we've got 3 minutes left. So I'm going to start wrapping things up. Michael D. Yep. Actually, very stoked about setting up automation. Most of the time in the past, clients don't think it's worth the extra expense. They don't realize the time saved. Absolutely. Once you realize how much time you can save, that one thing can trigger so many things that you would have, or they would have manually done, in the past, can be automated. Yeah. But unfortunately, a lot of clients, a lot of people don't necessarily see the benefits of these kinds of things. And so therefore they kind of lose out and we lose out because we don't get a chance to actually expand our skills and knowledge into these other areas. Right. So I'm going to wrap things up here. So thank you very much for joining in. Before I go, just be sure 4 o'clock today, so that's in an hour's time, check out Web Squadron. That's Imran's channel, because he's going to be doing his live stream on code snippets and different code snippets and different things you can do with it. So do check that out as well, because that's always an interesting conversation. So check that out on Web Squadron. That's Imran's channel at 4 p.m. That's GMT, in other words, an hour's time from now. But I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining in on this last minute live. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, answering your questions, talking all kinds of things that we do anyway. I will probably be live again next week. Don't know what day. None of these things are planned. I'm too disorganized for that kind of thing. Be sure to keep an eye out this afternoon for my dark mode free CSS code snippet that you can access and just change the way that your dashboard looks in WordPress and have a little bit of fun with it. But for now, thanks very much for joining in. Look after yourself wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch up with you really soon. Have a good one.